Why don't we bring the meeting to order? We're not going to have a quorum this morning, but thank you, all you diehards that made it out. But it's not so bad. It's actually going to, and the sun's going to come out, and it's going to be even better. And someone plowed my driveway, which is the most important thing for me this morning. I generally don't, he doesn't show up. And so this was really nice this morning to walk out. He just doesn't do around my house, so to get out of the garage, I've got to shovel like quite a distance, but it's okay. The rest of it was plowed. Thank you all for coming. We won't approve the minutes because there's not enough of us for a quorum, but if anybody has any additions, deletions, corrections, or anything, please let us know, and Karen will be right on it. Sorry. So, one of the things, since this is kind of like a smaller meeting today, one of the things I wanted to bring up was the EMS summit that just occurred from the protocol committee and the office here. And I just want to have it on record, and I'd love, can you go into the email and read a few of the points that we, perfect, yeah, because I'd like to get it into the minutes. Mike, why don't you explain what the format was, what was the idea behind it, and how we set it up, how you guys set it up. I just showed up.
So at the protocol committee, we discussed the imminent needs that we had in the region. And so we brought forward to the region the concept of having an EMS summit where we could just throw out lots of different ideas and try to formulate some action to recognize and then move this process along. So the region sent out letters. The response was phenomenal. I think initially we received about 88 people that said that they would be in attendance. It was a wide variation of providers, from the fire departments to first response agencies, to community-based, to commercial providers, to county EMS coordinators, to physicians, to other folks that have expertise in the area. So it was really well done. And
a few politicians, right?
And a few politicians,
yeah,
who have dual roles.
Yeah.
That wasn't the initial focus. We wanted to bring those of us in the region together first, and as we move forward. And so then the concept was that after that we would push it forward, either with a steering committee or a tag of some sort to move along. And so it was an outstanding session. I'm actually going to turn the floor over to Dave. Dave facilitated the meeting and went exceptionally well. And we broke the attendees into different disciplines, had them identify problems and some solutions, and Dave's got some did a great job and has some phenomenal notes here as well.
Yeah, so I really have to say kudos to all the agencies that came from around the region. We had representation.
Yeah, it was amazing, the representation. That room was filled.
Yeah, oh yeah, yep. We had, Bill, how many was it, 80 some odd?
81.
81 people there. So that's fantastic. As Mike said, we broke them into their disciplines and have them talk amongst themselves for a while and discuss what some of the issues and problems were. We had them rank those issues and problems, and then meet again and talk about some solutions, and then sort of come up with what's next. And so among the top issues and problems were staffing and competition for staffing among agencies, agencies stretched too thin in their own areas, let alone to mutual aid areas, costs increasing and reimbursement decreasing for a number of reasons, including a tax cap, budgeting, funding issues, insurance reimbursement, all of those sorts of things. Those are some of the top issues and problems. Next was the misuse of EMS by the community. EMS not being considered an essential service and a lack of advocacy for EMS professionals and agencies, and that there needs to be education and leadership training among EMS agencies and providers and that group. Sort of in a third area there was transparency among agencies and communities, communications issues internally and externally, and then too much dependency on ALS. So these were all some of the primary issues and problems that all of these groups identified. And so I'm really just summarizing, what came out of the table of information that we got. For solutions among all the groups, we have better communication with the public and lobbying officials, using data and analytics to prove funding and staffing needs, better agency collaboration, transparency among the agencies, working as a system, and employing economy of scale among agencies. So that was sort of one of the top areas there. By far the next biggest one across the board was finance, where EMS is not being considered as an essential service. Even the view of it from, example, the mayor of New York City saying, well, EMS is just different. It's not the same as the other uniformed agencies. And so it's considered a different service.
It's okay, he wants to run for president.
Yeah, perfect. So it's also not considered, as a solution to have a preferred provider status, so that funding reimbursement comes directly to the agencies instead of to individuals who then have to pay the agencies, because that rarely happens. Specific funding districts, so that it would increase or improve the ability for a tax base or for paying for ambulance services. Changing Medicare and Medicaid rates. As everybody knows, the Medicaid rates have changed and largely been reduced and or eliminated for EMS agencies. PAC funding and changing pay wages. All of these things would improve a lot of areas of EMS. The third largest area for solutions have the following things in it. Education of agencies, including succession planning and educating communities. Using PSAP to filter calls better and not utilize ALS as often. So sending the right resources for the right calls. Better unity in the system, making EMS a career. And EMS authority, which would be another sort of district, political district, whereby agencies could collaborate within that authority area, utilize shared services and that sort of thing, and having an EMS academy, whereby EMS would be, EMT and or paramedic would be technical training versus an associate's or a bachelor's or anything along those lines. And so an academy style type of education. So out of all that, what's next is that we garnered some support for a committee of the people present to do this kind of work in the solutions that they presented. We had, I think, somewhere around 22 some odd people say that they wanted to be a part of that committee. We recognized that in EMS we had to be accountable and responsible. We have to make some of the changes. People aren't going to make the changes for us. We have to do a SWOT analysis, a little bit sort of a deeper, true look at things from a county or from a regional perspective, much like Dutchess County had done, where it's looking at the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Come up with a tag, come up with bullet points to bring back for local input, and then we need to garner support at the legislative breakfast, which is coming up at the regional level, and also go to Legislative Day in Albany as a collective group. And so that was sort of the what's next out of all of this. We're continuing to take the input from the variety of reports, put them into our table, and then we'll come up with a more of a defined problems and solutions list that that particular tag is going to work on.
Has anybody taken on the role where Mr. Work was? You know, he was really at the legislative breakfast. He was the one that kept us all informed. He was our liaison, really, to, you know.
Albie is really doing a lot. Albie Bachman.
Okay, Albie, okay. Because maybe, you know, that's another thing to do besides just the legislative breakfast is maybe we can petition or somehow get some infomercials out there.
Yeah.
Well, there is and I believe, Ken, right, isn't there a day in the spring that people go up to Albany?
Nisvara puts together a legislative day, but I asked them the other day and they don't have a date.
Oh, they don't have a date.
Because same as us, they don't have to let them be doing tasks.
I see.
But they usually do, they go up in May, early May.
This is just a huge complex issue with
Yeah.
a variety of moving parts. And I think everybody wants to make it work and does their best to fill all the little niches, but then that ends up being a problem at the end of the day when you can't fill those niches anymore.
Now, what's the place in Maspeth? I had to go to the place in Maspeth. I thought that was an EMS academy.
There's a number of places around that have an academy style whereby you can just...
During my training, I had to go there.
Right, yeah, you can just do the components of the National Standard Curriculum. A number of colleges, for accreditation purposes, do the whole college sort of view at the basic level, which includes the maths and the Englishes and, you know, phys eds and those kinds of things, and have to follow a sort of a more structured plan in terms of semesters and that sort of thing. And so this idea would say, okay, we're just doing the straight out curriculum, you know, without all that extra added stuff. And that's another way of doing it, to get people on board. And the problem is, the funding is just terrible.
At the end of the
So
day,
people don't-
we have 30 issues, but it's
Yeah.
just money, and
That's right.
there needs to be some kind of a huge tax system.
That's right, that's right.
So what's also interesting, you know, in fact, as I was sitting in the parking lot, I heard a commercial.
What time did you get here? Never mind, go ahead.
Slept here.
About 9:20.
8
It's great
o'clock
weather.
last night.
But no, really,
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, so I heard a commercial from, it was a union that was discussing the financial implications of the governor's budget on hospitals and emergency departments. And so what struck me is the important piece of that is here they're out there doing this outreach. EMS does not have any opportunities to do that outreach. Also, you know, there's one group does a legislative session, then there's Onion, and then there's nothing else. We need a common voice, and certainly because it's through the Bureau, we can't use that because it's a state agency. Maybe what we need to do is figure out a way to get all of the regions to collaborate into a spin-off group, to be one group with one voice. I think that's our biggest opportunity for making an impact across the state. We can't let the state council and the subcommittees of that run that for us. Maybe we spin off of the regional offices somehow.
But we do have to be a little bit careful with that because the regional offices are not allowed to do any lobbying as per the contract with the state.
So
Right,
So it would
exactly.
have to be an informative
Some sort
type
of-
thing, and it would have to be separate to, and not use the council names or
So then that's
associations.
so that's very interesting, and that is one of our opportunities. But, so maybe we need to form a separate group somehow, or maybe see if we can use an existing group, like Onion. We've never participated in Onion before, it was always a commercial group. But maybe we use an existing format to be our voice.
The problem that we're going to have in all of this is that there's only so much pie. And Onion wants their piece to be as big as it can be, and Niswara wants their piece to be as big as it can be, and the unions want their piece to be as big as it can be, and the commercials, the fire service, the ALS hybrids, the BLS hybrids, we all really came together for the voice of EMS. We just have to have that same voice that's EMS-centric for equality among all those services in some way, shape, or form to be a voice. And so that's what's going to have to happen.
Kim?
You actually on the state council have a peer committee, which every time we tried to ramp up a project, you know, people would change and it wouldn't, that might be something that we would suggest up there, that they reactivate, because what they did was kind of disappear. I mean, they stopped having meetings for them, but they're actually responsible for the awards, they're responsible for vital signs, for putting booths together and stuff. So there is a task for them. But again, over the years, I'm trying to remember his name, Mike, his first name, but he did a video, they tried to put out. He did some posters they tried to put out to just draw attention to EMS and get some energy. And now that I'm no longer on, I don't go up, obviously, but I sat on Pier. It was the same 6 people, but maybe we'd strengthen that, because that's a voice for all services. Onion and Nicevara have cooperatively done stuff together, because they know the importance of trying to do this, but you're right, they're both they're 2 different things. So Pier may be, I get the venue you're looking for, and it exists, it just needs to be some light for it to get into it.
That's a good idea.
All right, thanks. So, in that same line, I'll pass around a notice from Dr. Ashad and Dr. Fulligar. It's a casting call for people to work on when we roll out the protocols. You know how we do the little videos and programs to, bring up the new protocols, the new procedures, and format it so that we can distribute throughout the region, whoever wants to utilize the resource. So he doesn't have the dates on that piece of paper, but we think it's March 11th through March 12th, 13th, and 14th, maybe?
13th, 14th, and 15th.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's right.
13th, 14th, and 15th. Because it's Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday.
That went really well the last time for the ALS updates.
Yeah.
And there aren't so many ALS updates this time, there's a lot of ALS.
And it's also a thing of really making sure everybody's aware of all that's in there, because it's such a ginormous, policy and procedure, and just going through all the protocols, you can just, so it would just be a nice way that we get this all organized and out.
There was some emails over the weekend saying that they're going to do the ALS side also. So they're probably going to do both.
Yeah, they'll probably tie it in, because there's not so many new things on, like you said, on the ALS portion. We did a lot of cleaning up of the protocols and making sure all the formatting, the dosages, and the way we apply everything was uniform across the board, because you always find things. So the goal still is to have it up and running by August, right? August 1st.
We haven't heard anything from the state. Have you heard anything from the state, Kevin, with regards to how, if it's even been signed by the commissioner yet, the DLS protocols?
I don't think it
Because that's what we were really waiting for it to be signed from the commissioner before final documentation. is
Right.
done.
At our last meeting with Ryan, or a conference call, it wasn't signed. They expect to have a date that it should be signed by at this next meeting. So early next month, we should know. We did put our regular protocols out for comment this period, so we have to bring them back. We can't vote on them, but we did not get any comments on the protocols. So, they're on their 30-day comment period.
Okay. I have no service upgrades and no enforcement notifications. So we can skip over those. Evaluation subcommittee, I don't think we had any cases, right? Ashad didn't bring anything to me.
We have
And,
a couple that we're working on, but we're not ready to present yet.
okay. And Jeff, quality improvement report.
Actually, the spreadsheet you have in front of you are pad upgrades, and
Oh.
an Narcan and a couple of CPAP, but we're obviously not going to be able to vote on those today.
Just a couple.
Well, we don't really have to vote.
No.
We really just make sure everything's in order and that they have the proper procedures in place, and that a medical director and all the training and such, and that they'll process the QA, and then we move it on to the state.
All paperwork is complete.
Yeah, and it's a thing where we have to just make sure they have everything in order in that sense. Wow, that's a pretty, and over what time frame?
A month.
What? Really?
Well, one's an organization that had a lot of people, a lot of pads involved in it.
Okay,
So they-
that's pretty impressive, though. I've never had that many in one
Usually
meeting.
like Two.
Two.
A list of 30.
I was going to ask you guys what this was. Was it just a organizational thing of what was happening, or anything else, Jeff? Or you're good?
We're continuing to work on NEMSA 3.4. We've got most of the validation rules fixed. Rockland Paramedics is going to be coming online electronic in the May-June timeframe. And at that point, that will give us 30-some agencies that are not electronic, which represents 2.5% of the data that will still be paper. So almost 98% of our data will be electronic after they come on board.
That's really good.
It is really good.
Yeah.
Wow.
So we should continue to encourage the other smaller agencies to find a way to become electronic. It's really about it in the last month.
Okay.
We also have 2 interns that are going to be working with us from Toro College,
Medical college.
Medical College, yes. And both of them are very interested in EMS, and we have some QI projects that we're going to work on. And if there's anything that the MAC would like to
They should
present-
come to the MAC. What year are they?
They were invited, but there's...
There was a delay in school today.
Second?
They're fourth year?
I
Third
believe third or fourth year.
They're probably third year.
Third year,
Yeah,
I
because
think
fourth
it
year
was.
you go off and go do
Right,
everything.
that's what she said, next year they'd be going off.
Okay, so they're probably third year. Okay, great.
That new NEMSA status will be a tremendous asset to doing regional analytics and agency analytics. That's a little bit deeper than what we can do
A
now.
whole lot deeper.
And that'll be tremendous help to some of these things that committee has looked at also.
Well, it's also a thing where you don't have to do it manually anymore. You can get the data.
Yeah.
For anyone looking for funding to expand the electronic PCR projects in your counties, we, the County Department of Health, which Kim and I fall under, we were able to secure money in the opioid grant that came out. So we had 3 agencies that were not online as EPCRs. So we currently are in the process of purchasing the hardware and software for each of the agencies, so we'll be 100% in Rockland. But that opioid grant covers EPCRs, I guess, as a plan of data collection. So it worked. We got a significant amount of money from it.
That's interesting.
Do you have a, I mean,
The problem is that's due in June, so if your local health departments haven't earmarked it for something else, and a lot of them are having problems with what they earmarked if we're not using the money. So it got kind of crazy with us because they were like, well, take more, and we're like, So actually, we're helping RPS for buying the hardware for them because they already purchased their software licenses, they couldn't do that. And then Sloatsburg and Piermont were the 2 agencies, and they're low-volume agencies. We're setting them up for the first year, and they have to pick it up from there.
sorry, I was trying to be subtle.
Wow, fantastic.
How
So
many-
maybe it's something we can look at.
Agencies in our, I mean, I know 2% overall, but how about the number of agencies within Hudson, our EMS council that are still BOS? I mean, still
Still paper?
paper.
Once RPS comes on board, it will be 32 agencies with a varying call volume of less than 100 a year to 500-600 a year. So very small volume.
We'll have 1 ALS agency that is still
That's
paper.
it.
All right, thanks. New business. Anything anybody wants to bring up? So everybody that showed up today gets extra credit, never has to stay after school.
Sounds good.
And, no, seriously, thank you guys all for coming. It's gonna, this,
We had an RTAC meeting.
oh, that's right, sorry. I skipped right over RTAC. You want to talk about it?
No?
How'd it go?
Oh,
You were there. Were you there?
Were you looking this way?
I was,
Oh, so.
but if you want,
Oh, I can, if I can't do it from memory, but I'll look quickly here and see.
You do have his name next to it.
I know, that's why that's why I was looking at that.
Oh, so one of the things that we did talk about, there was again more discussion with regards to MIST. And, you know, we did not do a good job of getting that information out. It was never, that format was never really formalized. And so the region should absolutely get that out on regional letterhead, and let's get that distributed. That seems to be still an issue. And, you know, yeah, that has to do with pre-hospital notification, and also they're still working on inter-facility transfer forms. They had a great presentation, and I've asked them for the PowerPoint of that, and when I get it, I can share that. But just, you know, the trauma data in the region, and where these, you know, are the patients being transported to the appropriate facilities. And there's still a lot of opportunity for improvement, especially with pediatric patients. Talk about, they want to do some additional education on appropriate transfers. Big discussion with regards to disaster preparedness for the region. Seems to be another significant opportunity for some improvement.
I just want to add one to that. They talked about the MACE team. I don't know if you guys are familiar with MACE.
Yep.
It's the mutual aid something entity, coordinating entity, and it's for hospitals. And from what I understand, most of the hospitals in the region are involved in it, and the people at the RTAC were not familiar with it. So Rich Parrish, who was the president of the council, is on the MACE team and does the presentation. So I have set it up for him to do a presentation at the RTAC, and I think at our next REMAC meeting, I think we should probably do that too, because they do a lot of if there's any kind of an emergency, they get beds, they'll get any kind of resources that you need and ship them from one hospital to the other. So I'm not exactly sure how it works and what the agreements are, but he said that there was a lot of the hospitals in the region involved in it, and that's what they should do. Michael?
Bill, regarding that team, we use them at the air show every year at the airport here. And if they're there, they're really helpful. The problem is sometimes getting them to that disaster location. And if they're there kind of late, it's kind of behind the ball. But for like a pre-planned large scale event, it's very helpful when we treat 2 patients in 2 days at this air show. If we need to send out 5, they can tell us where to send it out to and track patients. We use them also when we do the plane crash drills here once a year. It's kind of really helpful by telling us where to bring patients to, where not to bring patients to. Kind of gives us a better idea of what we can utilize. But it is helpful in a pre-planned type incident like the air show.
Yeah. I know they also do the Westchester Airport disaster plan or drill. And they do other drills with other hospitals also. And I know they've been pretty active this year. So I think it would just be nice that we have a presentation here with them.
Yeah, it'd be good to learn, and they're going to have them go to the RTAC as well.
Yes, I'm working on that. Rich happens to be away right now, but when he gets back, he's going to be working with them and here.
And the next meeting is June 28th, 10 a.m. at St. Louis Hospital.
All right, thanks. So since that was the one I skipped, I don't think there's anything else on the agenda. This will be the shortest meeting in record.
The CMAC is the only other thing.
We didn't have one since the last meeting. We haven't had one.
Maybe in June, no? January, I mean.
Yeah, we had one.
Yeah, we talked about it.
CMAC was just before the last.
Yeah, so we
okay.
talked about it, so we haven't had anything since.
Okay, I just have like a couple of things. One is the Hudson Valley Regional EMS Council is sponsoring a legislative breakfast Friday, March 22nd, 2019, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. It's going to be down here at the Homewood Suites at the bottom of the hill in the airport. We're trying to get all the representatives from the district throughout the region, so we'll have congressmen and senators and some other people there. We have a committee that's working on that now, and I'd like to invite everybody, and if at all possible, come and voice some of your opinions, and there'll be an agenda posted very shortly. Albie Bachman is the chair, and he'll be posting the agenda hopefully this week. So you can see what's on the agenda, and then you can either add to it, or we can subtract from it, or we can just discuss those items at the meeting. There was also another policy put out by New York State. It's policy 1804, but it came out in 2019 about provisional trauma center designations, and it gives some of the structure as to trauma center designations if anyone is interested in that. It's on their website. If you can't find that, I can give you a connection to those. David, do you want to talk about the PEC program?
Say again?
PEC, you want to mention that?
Yeah, the Pediatric Emergency Care Coordinator Program is going strong throughout the state, and they are looking for individuals and agencies to be PEC coordinators for the agency. It does not mean you have to do the training, does not mean you have to, yourself buy the resources and do all the stuff around. It is being a point of contact and being a point to give other people information and bring training in and coordinate and improve presence of EMS providers in the pediatric milieu. And so that's the point. If anyone is interested, please get in touch with us. We'll send out there's a PEC presentation that they just sent out that gives some information. And again, it's just increasing the awareness of pediatric programs, equipment, different things like that.
So Bill, should we not create a regional PEC coordinator under the arm of the regional office? That would make the most sense?
Sure.
No.
At the moment, the last meeting, I signed up for that.
At the regional level?
Yes.
Oh, terrific. So there you have it. Dave's got it.
Yeah, because
You're a good man.
Because we wanted to have.
You're gonna say no.
Because we wanted to have our region represented and be a part of something, and it's an important facet, of what's out there for those providers.
Well, no, it's important that we have a regional voice for it, and,
Correct.
I mean, unless you absolutely want it, we should find other people who need to do these jobs. We spoke about that last week, the need to spread some of this stuff. There are a few of us doing lots of the stuff, and it needs to stop.
Yeah.
I still recommend you doing it.
I nominate Mike for the position.
Sorry.
Okay,
We
the
just
other,
like results. You get-
What's that word that begins with N?
the other thing is, there's, during EMS
You were
week,
like hiding all these things on me over here?
there's
Here's
a-
all this stuff I never even knew about. Keep going.
the EMS memorial dedication, that's where they put the Tree of Life, where they put members of EMS that have died in the line of duty on a monument in the Empire State Plaza. There'll be 7 people going this year, being, I forget how they call it,
Memorialized?
memorialized, yes, including Dr. Gutenberg from Northwell Health Systems. The other thing that's going on with EMS, as far as EMS Week, the Ryan Greenberg, the director of EMS, wants to take the first day for all EMS people to go out into the community and start to make a public image of what's going on in the what goes on with EMS and who they are, and try to get some more exposure. And he's trying to do it statewide on that particular day to try to get every service out. So I don't know if that's going to work, but it's an effort that he's putting forward. There's going to be some stuff coming out through his office to try to promote this. There's Pulse Check, which is coming up, which is NASVAR's EMS conference, and that's going to be in Rockland County, and that's coming up in September 12th through the 15th. And there's also Vital Signs is also coming up, and that's going to be in Buffalo this year. I don't have the dates on that one, but I did.
Yeah, she sent out that one.
Yeah, I thought I had it in this pile. And the next state CMAC or SEMSCO meeting will be May 7th and 8th, 2019 in Troy. That's it, that's all I have.
Okay. That was a lot. Anything else, anybody? Okay, can I have a motion to adjourn? And second. Thanks, guys.